Listen, I know the corn is finally growing, and I know those walls are up. There's 44 people. We're all out of here. See y'all later.
I have an estate to get to.
We're good. We're rich back home. We're not having squirrel and corn pops here.
Yeah, we're but so do you normally have a big family gathering when you do Thanksgiving?
Thanksgiving's hit and miss. Christmas is the priority. So the priority at Christmas is, and my wife says this every year, and this is my request every year. I have 5 kids. I want them all together. Just that one. Give me that one day. Give me one day. Give me X number of hours. All 5 in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving's hit and miss. Usually it's 2 or 3 of them and their families, and then maybe one other. But every now and again, it'll be a little more than that. But again, when you have that many when you have that many kids, and you add in our parents, and you add in them having kids, so it's always big. It's huge. It's compared to most folks, it's a lot of mouth to feed. So
Yeah, I'm pretty excited for this year because we moved from Arizona to Texas, and we have a little bit more family out here. So, like in previous past years, our Thanksgivings were very small, maybe 4 people total,
Mhm.
maybe 5, and now we're most likely going to get a big group, and I think that's going to be great. I think that I'm very thankful for that. So I think it's fun.
That's awesome.
Now we all know how Thanksgiving sort of started with Plymouth Rock and all that. So there were some colonies that didn't make it beforehand that tried to come to this great, wonderful country, and so we're gonna for the main topic tonight. We're gonna review those colonies. There's a list of 7 that, like I said, they wanted to come to this new world. They wanted to go to this unknown world and make a life for themselves, but unfortunately, it did not happen. Now, I shared this list with you prior to the show.
Mhm.
Did you know about any of them at all? I knew some of
Well,
them.
I knew definitely the one that's in Pensacola. So like
Okay.
I have it pulled up, so make sure I try not to miss Ochus.
Oh, choose.
Ochus.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah.
try. I'm gonna struggle on some of these, by the
Yeah, I
way.
don't know for sure if it's Ocus or Ochus. Anyway, so I knew about that one because of the hurricane. I'm in Florida, right? So I mean that makes sense. That's a story that, again, probably middle school field trip. Oh, blah blah blah. This is what happened. Hurricanes, and I will be honest too. Because obviously hurricanes have been exaggerated for most of the country. It's not quite what you expect it to be. You do know what's happening. You know what's going to go on, things like that. But imagine rewinding the clock when there is no news, no warning, whatever. I thought to myself, wow, that would be rather frightening, rather scary, and how would you survive those situations? So it was really no surprise. But
Mhm.
that's the one that I knew for sure. But I think there's 2 of them that are similar to that. That was the one I knew for sure was the one
Yep.
hurricane when the Pensacola group, and there was the one. So I'm trying to read some
Yeah,
of the
there's quite a
summaries.
few. There, like I said, there was technically 7. There might have been
Where's the
there.
frozen winter one? Where's that one?
We'll
I
let's see
yeah,
here. It
we'll
might be
see.
that I don't know. It might be some. Well, anyways, well, the one of the first, and this is one of those words that I probably won't pronounce correctly, but it's San Miguel de Guadalupe. I think it's pronounced, but this is around Guadalupe. There you go.
San Miguel de Guadalupe.
See, when you're on YouTube, you try to make yourself sound smart, but then it goes all wrong.
No, I don't.
Um,
I don't do that. I just made something up, and he just wouldn't let me own it. See what he did there?
but this is like around Georgia, South Carolina, 1526. It was the first known European settlement in the continental U.S. First to bring enslaved Africans to the continent. In 1526, Lucas, not going to say his name, landed in present-day South Carolina or Georgia with 500 colonists and 100 Africans. Their settlement lasted a mere months. Then an unknown illness struck down 350 of the 500 settlers, an unrecorded number of them of captives. A group of enslaved people took matters into their own hands, burning down a owner's house, killing him, and escaping into the forest. So this was the first one that known one that attempted to make
You
something.
missed a piece though. Wait, because you didn't. We got to work on his storytelling, don't we, folks? We gotta make the drama here. So the first phase was they didn't bring all the food ashore. They didn't have the plan put in place to quickly build a
Correct.
secured
Yeah.
area. So the food is kept on this ship, and then the ship sinks. So they don't have food. It's too late to plant crops. They're running out of food, and then the sickness sets in. Now, the sickness could just be also exasperated by the malnutrition. So imagine, you had X number of slaves, and then the population of the settlers goes from 500 to 150.
Yep. Yeah.
You're suddenly not outnumbered or not, the power dynamic shifts more like to 3-1 your favor. And then there's an uprising. You're like, yeah, burn this mother down. Everyone's going home. That's exactly how that went down.
Yep. You are absolutely right. And apparently the remaining settlers from Spain sailed home. So hopefully I don't know, maybe they made it, maybe they didn't. But this was the very first of their sport. I still give them props for coming out here. I mean, just to do that trip alone back then was pretty impressive. But yeah, Pops is a good storyteller.
I don't know about all that, but I enjoy being dramatic in a setting where I'm allowed to be dramatic. My wife would, they roll when it's your family and you are like this, because this is just me happening to be here with you, but I'm like this at home. And they just kind of like, okay, Dad, all right, whatever, honey. Yeah. Are you still talking? It's just, yeah, another one of your dramatic stories of something that you read like 2 days ago. Yeah, pretty much.
Well, then I'll let you tell the Pensacola.
Because when you're in radio, this is how it is. They just hand you the thing. You're trying to make it as interesting as you can. You want to try to seem like you've read this or this story from like, I don't know, years past, and I'm just recounting this story like a man in my chair with full of wisdom. And reality is, I vaguely remembered the story about the hurricane, but 48 years before the English founded Jamestown, the conquistador came and tried to establish a nice Spanish settlement, but there's 1,500 soldiers, there's enslaved people, and the Aztecs are there, and a hurricane took out their ship. That's it. Boom, done. Food's scarce. 1,500 people go inland, 50 people behind, and guess what? Nope, they all rose up in mutiny as well, and they're all wiped out. Let's move on. It was like, yep, that's pretty much. People have the attention span of a gnat. And you lost their food, they're not safe and secure. Okay, we're done. What's next? Done. Yeah. So.
So did you mention that you would do field trips to this place, or of this place? Have you been to the spot where they landed at all? Do they have like a?
No, I don't know. I haven't been to the Pensacola historical area, but I know when I was a kid, they would do these. It was really strange because I have such fond memories of like these regular field trips as a kid. But when my kids came up, they didn't have very many field trips, and they would tell you about a field trip, and you're like, oh, I'm like, I'm a child, right? So I'm like, I could have been a chaperone. I could have gone and made this, like, this could have been fun. They're like, oh, it was terrible, Dad. It was boring. It was what I'm like, what? So we would have all these. There's a Gasparilla parade and all this stuff about this pirate that invaded like Tampa Bay area and all this stuff. It's like, it's a pirate story. It was actually like this rated R graphic type situation that they dumbed down for like elementary school kids, right? So we had tons of those things. You would see like, again, we have a very Hispanic population here in Florida as well. So there's a lot of like heritage that's assigned to some of these different people who actually were positive on the society and culture, not the people that we're reading about tonight who are the failed stories. They're a positive story. So in that you would have compare and contrast, right? You would say, in contrast to this group that didn't make it because the hurricane wiped out their food ship, this group over here, they knew to get the stuff off the boat ASAP. You have a nice settled area. You have secured with guards protecting it from, all those kinds of things. So that's what I had in my head when you brought this up.
Yeah, the reason why I want to bring this up because also everyone knows about Roanoke, but there were quite a few others that didn't really make it.
Right.
And another one on the list is Adjican, I think it's pronounced. This is another like it's. I think it's it was a Spanish group that came over here, but this was around the Virginia area in 1770. They were missionaries. They came to the Chesapeake Bay. They had brought along a member of the Powhatan tribe. So they've been here before, apparently. And a man that the Spanish had kidnapped from the area 9 years prior as part of their mission to convert his people to Catholicism. Sorry. And so they were here before. They kidnapped this Native American and then brought him back. He escaped, regrouped with the Padawan Tan, and destroyed the Spanish mission, murdered the settlers, and had attempt to colonize their land. So this one wasn't a hurricane. This was revenge.
They, they would treat the Native Americans as being ignorant and primitive and not strategic.
Yeah.
And you've treated them badly, and you're in their area that they know way better than you.
Mm-hmm.
You again have minimized your strategy of how to handle food and the environment that you're in and things like that. And
why would you bring a guy back?
I don't understand. I mean, and so again, if I had to like write the story, it would be more like, did they think he was a translator? Did they think they could try? He won them over, and he was secretly.
Well, they wanted to have them convert.
Yeah.
But maybe
Right.
I don't know. But he knew better. I guess
Yeah.
he escaped, and I wonder
There's a
buddies
show
would
called
say.
Hell on Wheels, and they have a Native American that becomes a Christian, and over the course of the first 2 seasons, which is all I could bear, is he kind of switches his way back and becomes more aligned with his native tribe again, and you kind of see that evolution. And I'm like, I don't know about Powhatan, if that was how his journey went, or how that's my best pronunciation. I have no idea how to say his name, but yeah, the Jesuits. There's a few less Jesuit missionaries because of this story. Is what the moral is for those of you at home.
Pretty much. Yep. Now, Zach says here that weren't the Powhatan involved in Roanoke? I think that was another tribe. And we are going to talk about Roanoke. This is like one of the most famous ones because these people literally just disappeared. Just to summarize this one, if you haven't really know about this, this was the first English settlement in North America, founded by Sir Walter Raleigh in August 1585. They also had food shortages, conflicts with local tribes in 1586. Caused Sir Francis Drake to take the first settlers of Roanoke back to England by ship. So they were going back and forth in this place. So they were kind of thriving. Doing pretty good. A year later, 100 more settlers under the leadership of John White with his family. They were kind of watching over the place as Sir Francis Drake was back in Europe. But then he left for more supplies. White returned to England to resupply the colony, but was delayed by the Spanish Armada's attack on the British Navy. The settlers he left behind were never seen again. He was gone for almost 3 years. White was.
Yeah.
And when he came back, by the time White returned in 1590, the site had been abandoned. The only clue as to what happened was a word discovered carved into the wooden fence around the settlement, Croatoan. And this is the tribe that you're thinking about, Zach, is this one here. And this is, if you go to this spot in North Carolina, this is a big thing here. They talk about this group of people a lot. There's still investigators trying to figure out what happened to them. Did they go with the Indians? Did they get eaten? Did they just all starve to death? Did aliens take them? There's all kinds of theories on what happened to these folks here.
I don't know what chat thinks. What chat where do you think they went? Do you think the Indians? Do you think the Indians got them?
They're going to say
feast on them, sold them
this
out west.
Will say Bigfoot. This chat will say Bigfoot.
Hey, listen, I want to see the okay. This summer, Roanoke Bigfoot. Answers we've all been searching for. Zax creates a documentary that dives deep into the disappearance of those English settlers that we've all been asking about, or at least 10 of you have asked about.
Yeah, they've done lots of shows on this town or this colony.
Oh, an episode of Supernatural. That'd be
yeah.
kind of fun to watch, actually. Good call.
Demons, clearly. I think the few survivors learned to live with the native. Yeah, that's what that's most likely probably what happened.
The white ladies, Spirit of Liberty meant the white ladies got to live amongst the natives. Let's just be historically accurate there.
I think the survivors were absorbed. Yeah, a lot of people think that's what happened.
Yes.
Now, his daughter, they don't know if White's daughter, they don't know if she lived or not. But she is kind of like this mythical person in this part of the country. They actually have a whole garden dedicated to her, and she is the white lady statue that they have. So it's pretty interesting that this whole little colony just disappeared and no one knows what happened to them and what comes from it. So fair point, Beard says. Yeah. All right. So that's one of the most famous ones there. Now there's another one called Sable Island. This is in the North Atlantic. It's up there by, I think, Nova Scotia, around Canada. This one's actually called the Graveyard of the Atlantic. So a lot of ships have crashed here. And during 1589, and then even going forward. Let's see here. So these the shipwrecks on the shores. Sable Island was first settled by the in 1589 or 99. They weren't quite sure. Faced with lack of volunteers, La Roche approached men imprisoned for crimes and gave them a choice. You're either going to be executed on this island, or you're going to help us make a colony on this island. Which one would you pick if you were? I'm guessing.
I'm just wondering where the food ship is. As long as I know I'm close to where the food ship is, I have a chance, because that seems to be the moral of the story with many of these things. If a ship has made it and there's food on that ship, you need to be really good at slicing potatoes and get on that ship. That's what your job should be. Transporting food, taking care of food. You might make it. Go find yourself a white lady that the Indians don't want.
I don't think there was anybody on this island, to tell you the truth. I think it was just
good point. It's probably a bunch of prisoners that nobody wanted.
There's a picture right there of that island. It's a very thin, small island.
You just walk across the other side. There's really not a lot of options with this island. Let's just be honest. So what ends up happening is they just don't realize that this is not something you should try to sail over, and they just crash into it. I mean, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. This seems so small.
Yeah, there's a lot of currents and waves right here, but yeah, people crash into this island quite a bit. Located off the coast of Nova Scotia, like I said. However, soon the crimes and infighting with the criminals in 1602, Larouche stopped supplying it. He relented a year later, though. By 1603, just 11 of the 70 settlers were still alive. Sable Island is still populated by wild horses, descendant from livestock imported by the Europeans. So it's got horses on it, that island. So there you go.
Man, 11 people were all that were left.
Yeah, they were just infighting and probably murdering each other.
Wow.
Great times, right? The traveling to the New World.
That's yeah.
St. Croix Island is again up there by Maine or Canada, depending on who you ask. This was in 1604. This one's another kind of famous one for Canada and Maine. Was one of the first French attempts to colonize North America. A icy winter isolated the island settlement. This is probably the one you were thinking about, Pops.
Yeah, because of that statue. Now, because I didn't see the statue earlier. Yeah, the statue. I've heard this because of the statue, and they all froze to death, basically. Like it was a winter. It was a winter story. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, and basically, Samuel Champlain said he said this. There are 6 months of winter in that country, meaning Canada. So, which I would agree. If you've seen Maine or seen Canada, it's pretty cold up there. 35 to 79 settlers died during the winter of 1604 and 1605. In August, de Mons gave the order to move the settlement to more favorable location of Port Royal, though it too was abandoned in 1607. So there you go. I don't think the French had a good time here.
Man.
Let's see here. Don't worry. Vanquish says to Zax, they will find the Oak Island treasure by season 115. Yeah, Oak Island's up here too. That's another, but that was after Plymouth Rock. But yeah, they supposedly there's treasures hidden in that island. But yeah, this was another troubling, just weather related. You had hurricane down there by you, and this was winter. And you're right. I think anybody that came from Europe probably wouldn't really know how these winters were, or unless you were in northern part of Europe.
I don't
I
know.
think.
After like week 3, wouldn't you just start hiking south, like figuring out a way to just we're just going to keep going as south as we can, away from wherever I mean, just you would just we're the cave. We're somewhere else we can build a, just I don't know.
Well, they did
But
think they did think there was a river that or some body of water that went from one edge to the other in the northern part of America, and they just kept trying to go that way, and that was the Great Lakes, and they just kept finding more winter. So
right, good point. I guess it's there was a reality show where they did this whole like pilgrim home building thing or whatever, and these are people that they're like from our civilization that know what they're getting themselves into. And once you got to like week 3 of that too, they were also like, I'm ready to go home. So I guess it's, it is a lot easier to be the Monday morning quarterback than it is to actually live through it.
How many stories end with, and they all starved to death back then? Quite a bit.
Most.
But
If
think
they
about that
survived
though.
the hurricane, they survived the winter, and they survived the food ship sinking, then they still starved to death. Yeah.
Yeah, but think about that people knew that this was this was happening, right? Even like, so they would still get on the boat and they would still think, I'm going to do it. I'm still going to go out there and find this new world. And I think that's just the human spirit, and all of us trying to do new things and trying to just be, just push ourselves to do things we've never done before. And it's just amazing that these people even decided to get on a boat.
Yeah, I
And
wish
come
there
this
was
way.
more journals or things. And maybe there are in museums and stuff. I just don't. I just haven't seen, because I would really enjoy that. Those are the movies I would rather see. Is
Yeah.
that type of journey, even if they end in tragedy, I'd rather see that. And we should also call Zach's out. Zach, you were at least he's a bigger mammal than me. Have you seen the shoulders on this guy? We got to kill a lot of squirrels to maintain, buddy. We're going to have a lot of hunting in our future during that zombie apocalypse to kind of keep our fighting weight.
Yeah,
So
some of us need more calories than others.
yeah.
So this is the Popham colony, also in Maine in 1606. This is the last of the 7 here that we're gonna go over. So this is located at the mouth of the present-day Kennebec River in Maine. Was supposed to be a trading settlement. 120 colonists built defensive walls, homes, a church, and the first ever British ship to be constructed in North America, the Virginia. So that's pretty cool. So they were doing pretty well if they were able to build a ship, I would think. Their success was short-lived. In 1607, another food shortage sent half of its 120 original inhabitants home to England.
See, they brought contractors, and they didn't bring any farmers at all. Nobody knew how to farm and grow anything. So they knew how to build a wall and protect themselves. So they had the contractors down, but they didn't know how to farm and feed the contractors who ate them out of house and home.
And when the expedition's leader George Popham died of unknown causes in 1608, Riley Gilbert took power. However, in September, Gilbert had inherited his family's estate back in England. He and the remaining 45 inhabitants of Popham set off for home, abandoning England's first New England settlement.
That part needs to sink in, folks. That's so great, right? They're there, they're doing their thing, but your Uncle Walter Raleigh leaves the money to the estate, and he's like, "Well, listen, I know the corn is finally growing, and I know those walls are up. There's 44 people. We're all out of here. See y'all later.
I have an estate to get to.
We're good. We're rich back home. We're not having squirrel and corn pops here.
Yeah, we're gonna have all the things
Maine.
we need."
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. That was some of 7 failed attempts before the Great Plymouth Rock, and I don't know if they were just lucky, the Plymouth Rock folks, or they kind of had a little. We were always told that the Native Americans taught them how to, grow or farm, but I think they kind of got the concept that we have to do something to keep food going. And I think that's what happened.
You know, the winners write the history, right? They're the ones that got there. So you look back and it's comparative, right? So they knew how, for some reason. And again, a lot of the stories we have read are like, oh, well, they somehow were in contact with Native Americans that knew how to farm the land and would have a cooperative relationship with them and weren't in there trying to slaughter them. And they taught them how to, you know, here's what we can grow and live on and things like that. So, yeah.
And Jamestown was a similar thing, you know.
Yeah.
It became successful, and they were able to create what we have today. And I'm thankful for that, because I wouldn't be living in this great country if it wasn't for that. Now,